Good morning, konnichiwa. This is Lori Sagawa, and I'm so happy to be here with you today. Whether you're from the United States or other parts of the world, I welcome you and welcome you to the samurai way of the samurai, Bushido, which is Bushido. Bushi is warrior, Do is a way. So what I'm teaching is about the way of the warrior, the way of the samurai. And today we're going to be speaking about Ganbaru and Musashi. And Ganbaru is try your hardest, do your best, never give up, and go for broke. But it's more than that, it's finishing it to the end. And Musashi is the greatest swordsman that has ever lived in Japan. And that was his goal. So we're going to speak about how he pursued his goals and the his tactics and his strategies, because he has taught many people, and his work is still being read about today and talked about. So we'll continue on with the presentation today, and I hope you're having a great summer. In case you don't know me, or the first time you're seeing one of my slides, this is me many years ago. I won't mention, but I'm a baby boomer. And my parents had a family friend who was a merchant marine. He was Japanese, and when he came in, he would always come and visit us, and he would bring his whole treasure chest of goodies, or shall we say gifts, from Japan. And sometimes we get dolls, sometimes we get candy, but this time he took our family photo and took it to Japan, and they made plates out of us. So this is still in existence today, and it came with 2 matches. But that was me. I was a farmer's daughter, and I wanted anything to be but a farmer's daughter. But it taught me so many good things in life about how to continue, how to never give up, because that was our family motto. Sagawas never give up. And that's really the way that the samurai and the Japanese people are. And it was a small farm in Woodland, Washington. And so through school, I was teased and bullied, and I didn't identify with the school kids. They were all Caucasian, blonde hair, blue eyes, or brown hair, but they teased and bullied me. And so I wanted nothing to do with my Japanese heritage until I went through college and took Japanese and art, and started working at the Tacoma Art Museum. And my mentor, who was an international designer, Sarah Little Turnbull, told me that, you should really go to Japan, Laura. You're more Japanese than you realize, and you would learn so much about your culture. So I did. As a newlywed, we went over to Japan for over a month, and we met the family relatives on my father's side, and they gave us this. It was our family crest, which is called kamon. And I didn't realize the significance of it until much later. And we met the whole family. They came together for a gathering, and I saw so many similarities, even though didn't know each other, that the DNA of that Sagawa humor, and I call it the Sagawa chortle, because our family, each one of us had great senses of humor, and we were fun to be around. And that was my dad. He was always joking and laughing. And I believe that's part of the family trait that we all inherited. And so when we did go to Japan, they gave us this. It's our family crest. And they also gave us a copy of our family tree. And it was just not, I thought it was great, but I didn't really understand how important this would be for me in my life. And so 2000, after marriage with a family and just the normal things, and after the empty nest came 2 automobile accidents. Not one, but 2. 2005 and 2007, I was rear-ended. When I was at a stop, someone rear-ended me. And the second one, I had multiple issues going on. I had cognitive deficits. I had chronic pain, which I had in the first one. But then the other part was the brain part. I couldn't read very well. And I didn't know where this was going to take me, because I was pretty much not a very productive citizen or a person. So I fought my way back, and I thought, if I could write a book I'm going to overcome this traumatic brain injury, which I was diagnosed with. So tirelessly, I worked all the time, whether it be 15 minutes a day or an hour or more. I would research and write. And one day, as I was researching, I came across the family crest and I saw ours and I told my husband, John, look, this is our family crest. I said, this means that our lineage is part of the samurai lineage of feudal Japan. So I was excited about that because I had always felt that I was part of the samurai because of the way I thought, and especially after seeing The Last Samurai. How many of you watched that movie with Tom Cruise? It was based on a historical moment, but it's Hollywood. But it did bring the samurai in Japan more to the forefront. It was a beautiful movie. And so finally, I continued to work, and as I did, everything started improving. My vision and my cognitive rehabilitation, and then not only that, I was not in so much chronic pain. So that was interesting because it was kind of happening at the same time, but this book took over 6 years to write. My next one will not, but it was just my goal to overcome traumatic brain injury. And so when the book was finished and I actually had it self-published, I thought, yes, that samurai spirit's in me. But then a few years later, I was offered a contract with Tuttle Publishing, which I took. And Tuttle is a international publisher that especially brings books from Japan to the United States, but they've also included Korean and Vietnamese and Chinese and other Asian cultures. And it was so in 2018, that was when they offered the contract, and then 2020 was when the book came out, right as a pandemic came out. Let the Samurai Be Your Guide. So I'm very proud of that. And it's about the samurais and the samurai ethics, the Kodo Bushido, and I'll be speaking more about that today. And this I would be happy to send to you. Please DM me. Let the Samurai Be Your Guide. And it's the 7 Bushido pathways to personal success, but I also believe it's for business success. So the first one, I'll be speaking about this because, in my opinion, there's so many of the people that examples that I have in my book or have spoken about that not only have Ikigai and Ganbaru, but they also had a lot of these traits of one or two, if not all of them. So courage is Yuki, bravery. Integrity is uprightness. Benevolence is Jin, Jin, goodwill, disposition for the good of all. Respect is Rei, which is so important in the Japanese culture, to hold in high regards. Makoto is honesty, which is another principle of Bushido that's so important, and it has permeated the Japanese society. If you have if Japan is on your bucket list, I highly encourage you to go because you will experience a culture that doesn't exist in many parts of the world. And you'll see how that Bushido code has gone down and permeates even the Japanese society today. It's a very safe, clean country, and they don't charge tips. And I felt safe, a woman traveling alone. Honesty, Meo is honor, which is very important because when you lose your honor and your good name, what is left? And the last is loyalty, Chugi. And one time I spoke about Hachiko, the dog in Tokyo who waited for his master for 10 years until he died. He walked with his master to the station and he'd greet him there every day at the same time. But one day the master passed away and Hachiko continued to be there every morning, every evening, and he died there. So the Kodo Bushido, which I've been speaking about, is the way of the warrior. It's a samurai code of ethics, Bushido. As I mentioned earlier, courage, integrity, benevolence, respect, honesty, honor, and loyalty. And as I go through the rest of this presentation, I would like you to think about which Kodo Bushido resonates with you, and perhaps there's one that you would like to work on. So this will be a good time to do that. And please DM me for this Kodo Bushido guide. Miyamoto Musashi, he was born Shinmen Takezo, 1584 to 1645, which was quite a long time for that, in that time of our civilization. People didn't live that long. He was born in the year of the monkey, and he adopted 4 children, which I thought was interesting. And they called him the Kensei, which is a sword saint, and the Ronin, which is a wandering samurai. He founded Niten Ichi Itosai, the style of swordsmanship, and he's the author of the Book of 5 Rings and the Path of Aloneness, amongst others. And his philosophy is what I really resonated with, and I hope you do too. These are some of his quotes that I think were wonderful. They have recorded about 50 if you Google it, but I thought these were especially pertinent for today. Think lightly of yourself and deeply of the world. That means don't be puffed up in their head. Though you give up your life, do not give up your honor, because it'd be better to die with honor than to be famous, rich, or whatever, accomplish great things, but not have that honor. And I love this one. Do nothing which is of no use. So think about your life. And I had to think about my life. What was I doing that is of no use? Because you don't get time back. So do everything with a purpose. Have a purpose, have goals like Musashi. And you could only fight the way you practice. So if you practice, say you're a musician and you practice and you do it half-heartedly, what do you think your performances are going to be like? Or if you are a speaker like I am, if I practice and research half-heartedly, it will come across. And I hope never to do that, because what I'm presenting is interesting and it's so helpful and it can change your life. And I believe it can change our world. This is a picture of Musashi. Well, not a picture. I'm sorry. It's a woodblock print, because they did not have cameras back then. And it wasn't until just pretty recently within the last couple 100 years, they had cameras and they kept perfecting it. And now we don't need cameras. We have our phones. But this one is a gentleman that is looking in the magnifying glass to see. He wanted to study Musashi because Musashi was legendary. His goal was to be the greatest swordsman in Japan, and he did accomplish that. And he didn't accomplish that by, wasting his time dawdling. He was always practicing. He also was interested in philosophy as well as Buddhism. So this is from the Library of Congress. And I think that's funny, a man going up to Musashi and actually wanting to examine him. And if you notice right here, up on the top of his head, it's dark. And what they did, the reason they did that is because the samurai had helmets that were so heavy. They did not want to add more weight, and they wanted it also to be cooler. So they had that I guess you would call it a ponytail. And there are people, when I was in Japan in May, I saw people that had that type of hairstyle. I don't know what hair. So they do that even today. So he was born many years ago, but his influence is still with us today. Here's another woodblock print of Musashi with his enemy, and he did over 60 duels. The first one was when he was 13 and he won. The second one was when he was 16 and he won again. So he would challenge people to duels, and if they were brave enough to do it, they thought that they could beat Musashi. And after 60 battles, one would think that there wouldn't be people around that would want to battle with Musashi. One of his tactics was to fluster his opponent. So there was a set time, say it was 3 o'clock in the afternoon. and there was the opponent, but no Musashi. So he did that purposely to set his opponent, to make him uncomfortable and to make him all uh, just excited or anxious or whatever. So he would come in and he would win the battle in not much time. And another thing about Musashi is he never did the same tactic twice. He always had a different plan for each duel. Over 60 duels, can you imagine? So he did more than one per year, because it was after the Sekigahara battle that he became this Ronin wandering samurai. Actually masterless. And here we have from the Library of Congress 3 very famous samurai. Sekiguchi Yataro is the first one to the left, Yoshioka Kanefusa in the middle, and then at the end is Miyamoto Musashi. It's a woodblock print. And if you don't know much about woodblock prints, they are amazing because each one of the colors has a different screen print. So here you can see at least 5 or 6. And it's very laborious, but they're so beautiful and they're preserved even today. And here's a modern version of Musashi. He is very well known and still respected and well thought of even today. So not only did he never give up, towards the end of his life, he did, I would say, almost retire. He went into more of reclusion and wrote the books, and he had students that took his works and his writings, and the Book of Five Rings was one of them. And he left quite a legend, and to be one best. And one of his things is, don't take, possessions are only that, they're possessions. Only be concerned with what you can take with you in your next life. And he did not, I don't know whether or not he did, but he did not die a rich person. He lived very simply, as most samurai did. They ate very simply, lived very simply. And I just, personally, I learned a lot from studying about Musashi, because he's legendary. For one thing, he set the goal to be the greatest swordsman in Japan, as well as in that probably the world, and he did that. And he's quite famous, and people still think about him today, just like other people that I've shared with you about, like Tomoe Gozen, Chune Sugihara. These people have left their mark on society by doing good, really. Tomoe Gozen they don't think about they're going to be doing good. They think about how they can be their best. And this is what I admire about them, is that was their goal, was to be the best. And I hope and pray actually for you that you would want to be your best, to be the very best that you can, because everybody has their own unique pattern. And very soon I'm going to be doing a 3-day challenge and then a master class after that. And I want to help you find your sweet spot. What is your purpose in life? And then really expand on that, so that everything you do after taking the master class from then on will be about doing your best to leave your legacy, to make the world a better place. And that's what we all want for ourselves and for our children and for those after us, that we would leave the world just a little better, even if it's one person or thousands of people. We all have an impact. This is a very recent thing I saw on not Facebook. I do YouTube sometimes because I'm searching for things. And one time I saw something that caught my eye, and it was about a man who was a janitor, and he had a beautiful voice and didn't think of any of doing much with that. He wanted to, but he was, I guess, hesitant to do it. And so the school kids that he sang for, he was a janitor in a school, encouraged him to go to America's Got Talent. And so he did. And he'd never been on an airplane before, and he did it. And unfortunately, his wife passed away, but he was engaged then. And his wife, his fiance encouraged him to do it. And so he goes, and not only does he go, he receives the golden buzzer. So you never know what can happen. You could say, I've used this example before. I'm just a janitor. What can I do? Well, this janitor is doing something with his life, and now he's on stages singing. But also think about the janitor at the hospital. If he does not do, he or she does not do their job, staff could permeate the whole hospital because of one person. Or it could be a very clean place and nobody would lose their life because of uncleanliness. Or the CNA that perhaps didn't give them the right medication or at the wrong time or too much. That could cost your life too. And a case in point, when my mother was in the hospital and was diabetic, they gave her 7-Up and Jello, and that's just total sugar. And if somebody's not there to monitor what's going on, you don't know what's going to happen. So I want you to consider Musashi about never giving up. I never gave up when I had traumatic brain injury, even though I was reading at a 7th grade level. I worked my way back, and with hundreds, if not thousands of appointments, physical as well as the mental, because that's so important. I did not want to be helpless for the rest of my life. And so I'm not anymore. But had I given up, my dad would say, we don't give up. Sagawas don't give up. And that's true. He did not, my mom and dad did not let us give up, whether it was school or projects, or even especially work. We had to be out there picking berries, because if we didn't and it was raining, the whole row could rot, or the whole rows around us. So I learned never to give up. And nothing more I love to do is to help people find their passion and to never give up. So the Kodo Bushido, the way of the warrior. And again, courage, integrity, benevolence, respect, honesty, honor, and loyalty. And those codes takes Ganbaru to fulfill them. And it took Ganbaru for me to fight to the end until I saw the book produced. And once the book was produced, I thought, yes, that samurai spirit, it's in me. That DNA is in me. I'm so happy and glad, and actually very proud that it is. And this is the last, this is his grave, and I thought it was beautiful. And that's in Japan. So, Ganbatte kudasai. That means Ganbaru, and Ganbatte kudasai is the imperative. Never, never, never give up. So, Ganbatte kudasai. Here's my contact information. Let the Samurai be your guide, Laureate Lori Whaley, Facebook Samurai community, and I'm actually becoming more active on LinkedIn. So I hope to see you. Oops. I hope to see you in the future on LinkedIn or Facebook, and we can become friends. And I really want to spread this, my intention, I believe, is to share the Kodo Bushido, Ikigai, and Ganbaru with the world so that they can live their best lives ever. So that's it. Ganbatte kudasai. Mata ne. Goodbye.